Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. Is bullying going on in boxing? Or is it that people who are trying to control boxing are realizing that they just can't control it? Eddie Hearn said something interesting about Dana White and being forced into working with Oscar De La Hoya, and as a result of us getting the Ryan Garcia Conor Benn fight. Listen to this.
Questions for you. Right. Now that you saw, it's a little off topic. Now that you saw Dana and Oscar working together, is there a possibility?
Well, I mean, when you say Dana and Oscar working together, if you ask Dana the question, I don't think he's going to really say, yeah, me and Oscar De La Hoya are working together. I mean, that's the reality.
I mean, co-promotion, sorry.
He was bullied into it, really. They had no choice, but they didn't. Do you think Dana White would have voluntarily said, let's do a co-promotion with Oscar De La Hoya? I mean, he can't stand him. But this is how boxing works. Sometimes you don't get, like in an ideal world, probably, we wouldn't do co-promotions with anybody because you'd rather just do it on your own. But the boxing doesn't work like that. It's never worked like that. Also, you can't just say, we're not going to do any fights for the world championships, the governing bodies, because every fighter wants to fight for a world championship. And now they're finding they weren't going to work with any promoters. Well, they're doing a co-promotion straight away. I mean, it's a ring card to start with co-promoted by Oscar and Zuffa. Then they said they're not doing any world championship fights. In fact, Nick Khan stood on the stand to try and abolish the Muhammad Ali Act and belittled Maurizio Sulaiman, who, I'll say one thing really important. Whatever you think about Maurizio Sulaiman, let me tell you something now. He is boxing through and through, right? I know because I've lived the same life. I've been around boxing since I was 7 years old. So don't start thinking that I don't care about the sport. And Maurizio's the same. Maurizio's dad was so influential in the world of boxing. Maurizio's grown up in that household. Now, I don't agree with every decision Maurizio Sulaiman makes, but he's integral to boxing, and more so is the WBC World Championship. And these guys stood on a stand and tried to belittle that organisation and tell everybody they were crooked and they were a disgrace to fighters and blah, 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 blah. Well, guess what? On September the 12th, Maurizio Sulaiman will be in the ring on their show. And they'll all have to be with him. And they'll all have to pay homage to the WBC Championship. Because you can't just get rid of these things.
Now, when you listen to Eddie Hearn break all this down, makes you wonder what's going on behind the scenes. It makes you wonder what Turk Al-Sheikh was thinking, Dana White was thinking, sanctioning bodies, really the pressure on Zuffa boxing. Because it sounded like Dana White would have held his ground and not try to push to work with De La Hoya. It also makes me believe that it's not Turkey Al-Sheikh who was trying to hold up fights from being made. It sounds like it could be a little bit of stubbornness from a lot of people. But the bottom line is, fights are going to be made because when you have someone like, I would say, Turkey Al-Sheikh, the bottom line is the financier. Right? The financier is the one who controls the money. And if they realize, I'm putting up money for events, I have these fighters who want to fight for titles, but I don't want to work with sanctioning bodies. I want to try to create my own league independent of what's been going on with traditional boxing. And it's not working. The person who's putting up the money is going to be the one who first will say, okay, hold your horses. Let's stop taking it to the stupid. Because I'm not here to lose money, even though I have endless money, man. I'm not here to lose it. But it's guys like Dana White who are going to probably hold ground and be a bit more stubborn. Because look, Dana White is used to being a boss. But when it comes to Turkey Al-Sheikh, Dana White is no boss. Again, because Turkey is the one putting the money up. So I just thought that was interesting that Dana White ended up being bullied, according to Eddie Hearn, to work with Oscar De La Hoya, because you could see that they were trying to make the fight without Oscar. You know what I'm saying? They had brought the sanctioning body on board to make it for a fight. So that's the first thing that just lets you know when it comes to this Zuffa boxing, they can't do what they were trying to do. You know, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't realize that the other boxing promoters, the sanctioning bodies, I didn't think they'd be that powerful to where Turki Al-Sheikh, who just has, you know, long money, man, would have had to change course and do something different. But again, it's all about change and making refinements. But I'm gonna tell you this, man, the guy who's putting up the money, you know, or the event budget is Turki Al-Sheikh. And they insist on the matchup they believe will generate the highest return. And the promoter, or someone like Dana White, or even their business partners can disagree. But refusing could mean losing funding. And I think that's why you're seeing fights being made. One, you're losing funding. Two, you could have guys you signed who aren't happy. And when they come out and they start speaking about this brand and saying how, you know, we're getting paid good money, but we're not happy because we're not fighting for titles and they refuse to work with anyone. And here it is now, they have limited fighters that a person can get in the ring with. Then all of a sudden it's not so fun anymore. Even though you're getting money, it's just not so fun anymore. You know what I'm saying? But this thing with Ryan Garcia and Conor Benn, you just got to look at it. And just look at any fight that's expected to make more money than what they would do if they weren't working with other promoters and weren't working with sanctioning bodies, you know. You got to understand this. Cross-promotional fights attract more attention sometimes. They sell more tickets, generate higher pay-per-view buys, and secure better sponsorships than in-house. Maybe this is what Turki Al-Sheikh realized, and what's his name? Dana White is realizing that by trying to do things their own way, it's probably counterproductive because you want to have better sponsorships. You know what I'm saying? And just doing everything in-house, you're limiting yourself. And I do think Turki Al-Sheikh has a broader strategy. You know what I'm saying? He may be thinking beyond one event and wants to establish relationships across the sport, which is what he's shown. Increasing his market share and strengthening a boxing series, because at the end of the day, Turki Al-Sheikh wants all this stuff to benefit not just boxing, but also his country. But Turki Al-Sheikh is putting money up, and I don't care what anyone says. I don't care how much money those guys have. It does seem to be where they're at a point where they want to make this into a profitable business. And the only way it's going to be profitable is if you can keep the fans engaged. You got fans out here demanding fights and you don't want to make it because you want to do things internally and you're trying to just cut off all the sanctioning bodies. That's crazy. You know, the public demand for Conor Benn and Ryan Garcia, it has grown. And just the idea that it probably wasn't going to happen, because, you know, De La Hoya wasn't going to let that shit fly. He wasn't going to let it fly, no matter how much you may dislike De La Hoya. De La Hoya was a badass fighter. He a little annoying and shit, but he wasn't going to let it fly, because one thing De La Hoya realized, look, the contract was in the black and white. They can argue till they're blue in the face. They won't win. We have a contract. My fighters need to adhere to the contract. And if you want to work with my fighter, well, then you need to talk to me and do a cross promotion. It really boils down to money, okay? But if the public demand is overwhelming, the financier may push the promoter to capitalize on the opportunity rather than risk losing momentum. And Ryan Garcia and Conor Benn was losing momentum. But you see that they were able to get that momentum to catch back. But I'm going to tell you right now, promoters are integral to boxing. Sanctioning bodies are integral to boxing. Fighters, everyone, they all play a role. So you can't sit there, man, and just start to just eliminate them and think you're going to survive. Now, as far as promoters and why they might resist, I mean, hey, they don't want to strengthen rival promotion. Maybe Dana White pushed him back a little bit because he didn't want to strengthen rival promotion like Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy, because they don't get along. They've taken a lot of shots at each other over the years, and some people end up being butthurt. Um, but when it comes to Zuffa boxing, I don't think they fear losing any fighters they're signing. But promoters outside of Zuffa, they probably do fear losing their top fighters to Turkey Al-Sheikh and Dana White over there on Zuffa boxing because of the money they're paying. Other reason you can see resistance is revenue splits or control of the event. You know, Matchroom wants to control, Top Ring wants to control, Queensberry wants to control, De La Hoya wants to control. And if they can't control it, they want to make sure they're getting a nice slice of the pie. Again, money. So the bottom line, when I look at all this, man, is somebody getting bullied? I mean, I guess you could use that adjective to describe what happened to force Dana White to work with De La Hoya. But I'm just telling you this. When it comes to guys like Turkey Al-Sheikh, their influence usually comes from control of the funding. Simple. It's his money. He wants to put on a good event, the biggest fights possible, and now for titles, you know, not just the Zuffa belts, working with these sanctioning bodies, you know, and that's what it is. It's not direct control of the promoter, but a guy like Turkey Al-Sheikh's influence comes from controlling the funding. He's the guy who's writing the checks. So if he believes a cross-promotional fight offers the best financial return, he is not going to care about the tit-for-tat bullcrap that's happened over the years. He's going to strongly encourage or make continued funding contingent on the promoter pursuing that fight. And that would be Dana White going out here and making sure these fights happen. And irregardless of what differences he has with another promoter, getting beyond that to make sure they have the biggest fights possible, the most successful fights possible. So whether that amounts to bullying depends on the specific facts and how much freedom the promoter actually has without insider information. It's best to avoid me assuming coercion. But I just think Turkey Al-Sheikh just said, look, man, when Turkey's in the house, every day is Thanksgiving. So I'm going to put some business pressure on this guy and everybody else to let them know I mean business. The Zuffa belt matters, but I also understand that fighters do want to win these titles. You sanctioning bodies aren't going anywhere because you just look what they did to Jaya Pattaya. And they still haven't given him back his IBF belt. So I think Turkey Al-Sheikh realized we may need these people. I think Dana White is so used to being a boss over there in the UFC world where he's used to making the decisions. And basically, he's the Turkey Al-Sheikh over there. But now he has somebody who's above him. Dana White has a boss. And again, he'll roll with the punches because of the money he's making. But if it means he gets bullied, that means he gets bullied. But at least for us fans, we get the fights that we want. We already know who really makes these fights. It's Turkey Al-Sheikh. Because when Turkey's in the house, every day is Thanksgiving. Y'all keep cool, I'm in the breeze.